Hello and welcome to our RayVentory live webinar. My name is Lara Stroka and I'm working in the area of product management. And today I will present you together with Joao Pereira, our lead consultant, the new features and components of RayVentory. So the content for today is first, I would like to give you an overview of all new features and components, and we go a step deeper in the unified data concept and shows you all the new features and functions of the RayVentory Data Hub, RayVentory Scan Engine, and also the RayVentory Catalog. And then we will switch automatically in the live demo. At the end, we will start a Q&A session and we'll answer all your questions then. Yeah, what's new in RayVentory? So the RayVentory portal, which is now the scan engine, has new features. For example, the Oracle discovery and the automatic discovery and inventory of Docker. So besides, many features and new components have been added. For example, the components, the software catalog. In software recognition, the assignment of software raw data to applications is carried out with comprehensive detailed information. So, for example, product recognition, categorization, and vulnerability information, and also important information about the release dates and the information, is the software still supported or not. So much more than we can be technically connected. So, and the other new component is our unified data concept. With this new component, you can now manage your data even better than before. Data from one source or from different sources, the hub brings all together in a central platform and provides a basis of high quality information.
Okay, thank you. So again, welcome from my side. I would like to swiftly talk about a quote here that is actually stating something about the SAM majority. So as everything is moving forward, moving onwards, the same applies for the SAM overall. So teams got more awareness, management got more awareness, SAM overall got more functionalities, and of course, technically speaking, everything benefits from it. However, there are still many SAM teams that were struggling with implementing a SAM tool or a SAM solution. And the deployment of a SAM tool is most likely a hurdle in terms of the quality of the data, which is not only due to the fact that, of course, big companies or overall companies want to leverage a couple of sources because they want, of course, utilize what is already existing to get the most out of it. And this leads, unfortunately, in most cases to duplicated data gaps, the fact that everything is not really transparent. And how to tackle this or how to overcome such a hurdle or a challenge is something that Lara will give us some hints about. So this will introduce directly into the new features and functions, or the vision also, what is on our roadmap. So Lara, here you go.
Yes, thank you. So our vision was to create a central platform that brings all data together, whether inventory or software or asset data or compliance or commercial data. So all this information is behind solution and sources today. It is often very difficult to get an overview or get the full transparency of all these data. With the RayVentory Data Hub, we have developed a flexible data preparation, data capture, and visualization solution that supports the creation of reports and dashboards without a deep knowledge of the database. So stakeholders from different areas, for example, IT controllers, risk manager, compliance manager, or portfolio manager, are provided with complete transparency and a basis for high quality information that is a prerequisite for making informed decisions. And yeah, Joao will show you how it works.
Sure. Okay, thanks for the little introduction. So as before, we tried to simplify as much as possible. So therefore, we said that for this whole data management approach, we are focusing on three basic steps. The first is discovery management. The second one is inventory management, and then directly followed by the data management. So what happens inside of discovery management? So our goal overall should be that we generate kind of a 100% list. So saying what is actually out there. So what do I have in my environments in terms of systems, users, probably also soft facts that I could bring in. Then a second step, based on the evidences that we found, we should go out and try to get as much data as even possible. And this, of course, is only feasible with a couple of different technologies to have the best possible coverage of your inventory. Last but not least, we do then the data management, combining all the information that we have before. So first off, seeing getting all the discovery sources aligned, having the 100% list, bringing in the information about the data that has been collected, and also, as Lara mentioned about the software catalog, adding soft facts to it in addition. With that being said, let's speak a little bit about the discovery part. So this hub is designed to align multiple sources. So it does not necessarily mean that there is only inventory data. Multiple sources can also be from different kind of. One, for example, is the inventory data. That could come not only from the RayVentory, could also be the SCCM. And then, in addition, or on top, you can bring information from the Active Directory. So that allows you to somehow create your scope list. So what is actually the 100% that I should reach out, that I should cover? Otherwise, you won't be able to say, okay, I'm more or less like 80% successful or 90% successful if you don't know your 100%. Of course, information is nearly everywhere. And this was also the idea behind the hub. So getting the everywhere into somewhere. So getting this asset information also attached to the data hub. So you could, for example, attach information of a cmdb, in this case also to bring in either additional information or creating your 100% list in terms of discovery. Of course, and in this case, RayVentory does also bring in asset data, so RayVentory is just one of the data sources that you could apply. As we already talked about or briefly mentioned it, the vulnerability data. So we also bring in the soft facts, like what applications or systems are vulnerable or do have security gaps or risks. Also soft facts like the readiness data. Maybe you kept it in mind that we have Diroki, which is a 7-step approach for software portfolio migration and Win 10 migrations overall, focusing on packaging and software deployment. So this is also data that, of course, you could utilize to extend your data that you already gathered, but with a different approach. So therefore, you have the information whether or not a software is ready to run on a Windows 10 system. This, of course, is then information that you could not easily get technically. So this is like information that you get from paper, for example. Just keep it simple. Also, we are connecting or are able to build connectors to cloud and SaaS services. Just to name one, it's Office 365, where you could get your list of users as well as some information about the licensing perspectives. This is what is currently in place already. In the next step, we would like to also be able to bring in commercial information, just again as a soft fact, to extend your data that you already have. So for example, you could bring in price lists from different vendors just to bring some big numbers behind your information that you have. Also, a goal is to import already existing compliance data. As we mentioned it before, of course, we want to leverage data that is already existing. We don't want to throw away old work that has been done already. So we should utilize also that data to assist us with our goals. At this point, let me mention that this data hub is not focusing on license management, it's focusing to gather data for all kinds of purposes you have. If it is license management, then the RayVentory is capable of delivering the data to do proper license management. Last but not least, we also would like to have a connector or be able to build connectors to in-house software that may have been created that for sure can contain a lot of information that is useful. All right. So if we go one step deeper into the inventory part, as well as the discovery again, the scan engine, which is former the portal, scans on different layers. So nothing changed here, to be honest. So we have the discovery. Discovery for us is always a simple information like an IP address or a host name. So any kind of information that proves that this device is existing. On top of it, we are building the relations of hypervisor. For example, the vCenter, where we can get out the information about clusters, hosts, and guests. This, of course, is also kind of a discovery information because it clearly states that this particular device is existing, even if it is turned off, right? So on top of it, and this is where the most people are talking about in actual inventory, is the operating system inventory. So this is the layer where we speak about hardware as well as software information. So what we always come across the question, what hardware and software information are you actually gathering? The answer is pretty simple. It's close to everything that is attached to the device or that the device is utilizing. So for example, the disk, RAM, or CPU, and also the components that are actually license relevant or from a SAM perspective relevant. So network configurations also. In terms of software, we do not distinguish between license software that requires a license or not, or whether it is freeware. Actually, we don't bother about it. That's just because we are clearly focusing on what is installed on that particular system. Okay, so let's say we've done the operating system as well. Then there may be the case that some vendor require additional scans on top of the operating system scan. And this leads actually directly into our new functionalities or features of the scan engine, former portal, which is the Oracle database inventory and discovery. So we had that before for sure, but this time we brought in a functionality that is called Oracle Advanced Discovery. So what does it do? It's actually pretty simple. We are connecting to a device and try to find out whether or not there is an Oracle database running, and if so, what instances and how to connect to it. So you get the whole block of information. And then we will connect to the database and get the license relevant information. So the fourth layer is actually database or application layer, where we have to directly connect to the application to get the license relevant information. The same applies for Docker. So Docker containers is also something that is pretty new in the version 12. So we are able to identify whether or not there's a Docker engine, and we are getting the information about the running containers and images. If that's not all what you would like to see, then of course you are always able to do a custom scan So you could look for a set of files, you could look for processes that are running, or you can write even your own scripts for the particular systems. Just to remind you what methods we have in place, we're always speaking about agent-based inventory towards a zero-touch inventory or method. The difference is that an agent-based is, of course, something that you install on the target system. Zero-touch instead is entirely network-based. So there's nothing that you install on a target system or copy over. So right in between, there's something that is called remote. Remote is actually something between agent-based and zero-touch. Why is it in between? Well, we are not going to install something, but we are temporarily copying over some files and let the target system execute it. And to get even the last percentages to be able to reach close to 100% inventory coverage, we have a portable solution that is a command line tool that then is, which is actually pretty flexible, that will gather the data from the last bits as well. So all of it, of course, is used for Windows as well as non-Windows environments. So we do actually just distinguish between these two. Okay, that's pretty much it. So I would like to show you a little bit live. So I'm going to open the scan engine and show you something or some parts of the newer functionalities. So here we go. So this is the scan engine, so Pharma portal. So it might be familiar to you already, hopefully. If not, please reach out to me. So here it comes. This is the regular dashboard, so nothing new here. But if we go to settings, there's already the first bigger improvement. We have multi-language support. So maybe for this round, not that interesting because we are obviously speaking English, but another default language is German. In the future, there are some more following, like French, Japanese, and probably Spanish as well. So that's the first point. If we go to inventory, then we brought in something that we call health assessment. A health assessment is to flag your inventory status. So you can define it yourself, it's customizable, but the predefined here that you can see is if an inventory, for example, is older than 30 days, then it will be flagged with overdue. If an inventory is older than 90 days, then it will be flagged with outdated. So we all may know about the golden rule of 90 days. So this is a pretty important functionality actually here. Also, this is reflected in the inventory summary at the dashboard that I will show you in a second, where you then can see, okay, what devices or how many devices are already overdue and how many are outdated. So with that, you can create your kind of a homework sheet to reach out to your administrators, or even if you are an administrator and are capable of doing it, then you can of course investigate yourself what the issue is. Then something entirely new is the custom properties. The custom properties is something that you can define yourself, and we have two different types of it. The first one is just a property that you define. Let me make a simple example. It's the owner. And I will say that since it's my machine, my scan engine, and I am the one that is scanning, I am the owner of everything. So I will type here my name, and this is the default value. So what does it mean? This property will be added to the inventory of any device that is scanned by this scan engine. A second type of it is just a property without a default value. Then you're able to add the additional property manually, or assign the additional property manually to your devices that you scanned. So I will just call it additional property to keep it as simple as possible. So what is that actually good for? Since we're following this centralized and decentralized approach with the scan engine RayVentory overall, we can, just as an example, we can install the scan engine on a central place where it is able to reach out to every device that is in scope. Or if there are limitations due to network segmentations or probably some branches that you have, then you can also decentralize it. So you can hand this over to your branch, so that branch has its own scan engine, and they will scan their own subnets or segments and will report the data back properly. So with that being said, if a scan engine is, for example, deployed on a branch, and you're able to define some properties that are relevant for you and that fits also the key facts for that branch, for example. So as I did here, let's pretend I'm an administrator that has its own scan engine. So you can see that here the owner is always me. So far, so good. So let's apply the changes. Go back to our dashboard. So as I said, nothing new here. Here's the inventory summary that I mentioned. So the overview is hopefully something that you already know. And below the inventory summary, where you can see your custom defined inventory health assessment data fields, where the data is then populated or listed. You can see also the failed ones as well as the pending ones. Beforehand, to prepare myself for that webinar, I already discovered the data from RayNet and also did some inventories already. So that's what you can see here. So a couple of them, in total 4 devices, were successfully inventoried, and the other ones not. Okay, so another new feature or functionality is the scan process progress. So whenever you do ad hoc scans, for example, as I do, just mark 3 different devices and start the inventory. Click through the wizard. We can follow the inventory actually. So we will directly see what device is currently investigated on, and we also do see which technology is currently in use or is going to be used, as well as the information about what credentials am I using right now or am I trying right now. Maybe I don't mention it, but our approach is always zero touch first. So we're always starting with zero touch because it's kind of a low-hanging fruit technology where you can get your results pretty fast, centralized. So as you can see here, zero touch, we are using the service account and it's trying to get the queries, and it looks like it's working so far. The same applies here for the Linux device, for the SSH account that I created. The names that you see, and it fits. The names that you see here is something that I put beforehand in the credential store, of course, and they are friendly names, so you can define it yourself. The scan will take a couple of minutes, probably 1.5 or up to 2 minutes, and until we have results. Let me also give you some hints about best practices. As I mentioned before, we have 4 different technologies. Our best practice is to use everything that is related to data center and server, always zero touch. As soon as you reach your limitations with zero touch, you should focus on a different technology, something like a portable solution. So if network segmentation isn't the problem, but the firewall is, and you want to follow a different approach, then the portable solution is something for you probably. And in addition, everything that is not related to data center and servers, we do recommend the agent. So an agent most likely for a workstation, because in the most cases, they do not have always network connection. So let's imagine a notebook, for example, that's not always attached to a network. So during the network scans, it will fail. And then it will glitch through your hands, and you will may see it here in your inventory health assessment as overdue or even outdated or even never gathered. But actually the devices or your devices would be available. So therefore install an agent and you come across this challenge as well. In addition, an agent of course has a additional functionality for software metering to identify the applications that's actually being used. All right, so far so good. While I was talking so much, we could see the current status. So it's more or less like 50-50, or now 2/3. So one device failed. We can see the reasons because of the RPC service is not available. We can see what service accounts or credentials were used or tried, which technology as well. And the same applies for the ones that were successful, where we can see, for example, on my own device that remote execution was not touched because zero touch, of course, did work already. So let's click finish here. So what we can see then is per device on the right side, not only the overview that has a new polish, like the ones for the Windows, where we can see the logo and also the build number. We also do see the inventory log in the same manner as we did before. So this applies not only for the fact that for the process when you run it manually and ad hoc, it also applies if you have scheduled tasks in the background from the RayVentory scan engine, because of course we want to automate everything, right? Okay. The same applies here for my inventory details and the custom properties that where we can see here right now the owner is me. So let's have a look inside the inventory. This is also new in that version, that we have a better visualization of the inventory data. Did I close it? Unfortunately, yes. Let's go to meeting. So the raw data is shown on in a different way. It's actually more convenient to go to click through classes where you have the properties on the right side, and also you're able to search for certain things. So that particular device has Docker installed, and if we have a look on it, we can see the information that we are gathering from that Docker engine. So we are getting the information about the running containers, the configurations. We are getting the information about layers, the images that are available, and the overall Docker info to get the version, for example, as well as the network configuration, as this may be also relevant for the SAM parts as well. So what of this data is actually relevant for us? Most relevant thing here, I would say, is the layer, because it identifies your application. Just as an example, so based on my knowledge, Microsoft SQL Server is also an available Docker container. And if someone downloads it, then you have, let's say, 6 layers in it, where the first 4 are default. Then someone does changes on the container, of course, because he has to configure it, and populates it. So that will add a new layer to it. And then the Docker container is not actually identified any longer with the last layer as Microsoft SQL Server, because you changed it. So what is then interesting is to have the full block of all layers, because the first ones are the ones that you can use for identifying your application or your Docker container. And also the configuration and environment variables will give you hints about possible additions. On SQL case, for example, in environment variables, you can see the addition of your SQL Server container. So there's also a dedicated tab for it, where you can see the same information but not as raw data and more visualized. And also maybe a question to the audience: how many containers is on that big fish here? Probably someone can answer it in the Q&A. Okay, and we can see the containers that are currently running together with the command that is being used before. So the famous one, hello world. Okay, that's actually not all that we have. Let's have a look on the Data Hub. As we said before, this is actually the place where all comes together and where all the data is merged. So when you open up this web-based application, the first thing that you see is your overall current status, as well as your favorite dashboards and reports. So you can see, for example, your jobs that are successful or even not, where you have to investigate again. You can also see the recent changes, because one of the benefits of using it is that you always have the chance of verify and track the changes that been made to the connectors. So simple example, if you have a SQL query that is used as a connector query and someone changes it, you can always track it, who it was and what has been changed as well. We deliver a subset of reports and dashboards out of the box. So this is the ones that we want to highlight here. As we already talked about SaaS connectors, I would like to give you a hint about the Office 365. This is actually a pretty simple one, where getting the data is not that much effort. You just connect to your Office 365 portal and get the relevant data. So for example, just visualized here, what users were using some kind of licenses like or owning a Jammer license, or how many were activating actually the streamed trial, or how many were owning the Office E1 or E3 or even the Power BI. The same applies for the product's activation, so you can track what activations were made on what kind of devices. The same related to the user that you have, where you can see, for example, for Ali the boss, that you have an assigned product, the Office 365 Business Standard, and you can see its activations. So what have we done? So we did a data source, a connector, and get the relevant data for us and visualized it. So that means as soon as we have it here, able to be visualized, it's also able to be grabbed by a third-party tool. For example, hardware, software, asset management tool, to pick up the data in an already transformed and normalized way. In terms of the inventory, slightly different, but same approach. So let's have a look into the RayVentory devices overview. In general, we're focusing on data quality, data validation. So therefore, you will always have a mix of raw data and probably already transformed data or normalized data. The focus should be, as we can see here in the overview in a few seconds, what kind of data do I have? So what is the relation? Where is that coming from? So is it, for example, split in what operation system splits do I have? What devices are out there? How old is the inventory for that particular data source? As we can see here, it's listed for the fully qualified domain name, sorry, and the operating system. And as we saw before, all of it has its filter capabilities, where you click on one particular device and will automatically filter the whole dashboard. You will always have the information about how old is your inventory. I mean, it's obvious saying inventory age, so this is what it's focusing for. Then your domain split, if you have a couple of domains in operating systems, and one of the important facts also, device types. So just to name you one case why to have device types here, if you have a license management tool, it's relevant to know what device types are there. And if you see something like unknown, you should investigate why it's unknown and why not. So you could easily create your own dashboard, for example, just looking for this particular case for data validations. Okay, with that being said, you are always able to design, extend your own dashboards and reports. This was something that was pretty much the priority of that overall product, to be able to easily do something with your data or visualize easily the data. That's what you could do with a designer, where you can easily drag and drop some new grids or some new charts in it and yeah, align your data as you would like to see it. Okay. Before, I also mentioned that we have not only RayVentory as an inventory source, so let's have a look into another one. So here's SCCM. Welcome to SCCM. So the dashboard is the same actually. So it's again always focusing on the raw data or the high-level data that is available. And as we all know that we may have struggles with identifying SQL in SCCM, it got its own tab to say, okay, we are missing some data, so why don't we just use RayVentory for a short moment to get the real SQL data as we want to have it. Other than this, it's the same manner. So we do have the information about the inventory age, domain, operating system split, and so on. If you would like to have it extended, as I said, there's always the capability of design or modify your dashboard. Okay, so Active Directory, in our case, is something that we would then utilize to build our own 100% list. So that's what we did here also. So we queried the Active Directory to get most likely devices that were not covered by RayVentory or SCCM, or identify those. So we get also the relevant information about it, so device types and computers, what operating systems, as well as the users and the group relations. So basically, we are now able to have our 100% list ready. So we do have the information about SCCM and its coverage of inventory. We do have RayVentory and its coverage of inventory. And we have Active Directory data to identify some gaps that we may have or not. So at the end, we will then have a look into our inventory health or inventory overview overall. So that will summarize and merge all the information that is available from the different data sources. As we can see here on the right corner, we have the inventory source. So it's SCCM, it's RayVentory, Azure, and Active Directory. Then we have two different device types, and we have the overall inventory age, as well as, and this is a very important number here, what is 100%? So it's currently 65, so it's okay. These are the device counts of the device that we found and the inventory devices that we have so far. So gap identified, we should investigate for sure. So let's have a look a little bit deeper into the inventory sources. So what we can see here is pretty much important because we can see what devices are covered by what kind of data source. So for example, there are devices that are only covered by RayVentory. But on the other hand, there are devices that are covered by SCCM, RayVentory, as well as Active Directory. So this is a very important dashboard. And again, if you click on something, it will automatically filter for it. Then we have, also in terms of RayVentory, additional dashboards where we said that we want to utilize multiple data sources. And of course, we want also to add some soft facts to it. So for that particular area, I would like to swiftly hand over to Lara so she can tell us a little bit about the additional information that we gather.
Yes, sure. So maybe you can give me control. Yeah, perfect. So I would like to show you a dashboard, which, all the information from our new components, the RayVentory Catalog. As I said, the highest information that we can get from the catalog are the vulnerabilities. So here in the dashboard, we have full transparency of all vulnerabilities that we have in our company. For example, direct on the first view, we can see how many devices have software with vulnerabilities and what are the top 20. We get all the software titles here and also the version numbers. And also we get a score, how many vulnerabilities we have in our company and is it critical or not? So in this case, we have a score from 7. So I think we have to take a look deeper here to get more information which software have which vulnerability. For example, I have here my overview of all devices with name and operating systems, and in the other grid I have all vulnerabilities with more information that comes all from the RayVentory Catalog. As I said before, we get not only the vulnerability information from the catalog, we get also more information about the vendor or the software, or also the architecture and the information of end of life. Is it supported or not? But when I would like to go a step deeper, I can click on a device and you see all my dashlets are filtered automatically, so I can see only this information that is important in this situation for me. And now we can see we can also change the range filter here. For example, I would only see all vulnerability software with the range or a score from 5. So my grid filtered here, and now I have all informations that I need for further discussions. Yes. That's the overview that we can display it in the RayVentory data hub. So again, all the information comes from the RayVentory catalog. And now I would like to show you how it looks like in the result of all informations in the catalog. We get here an overview of all software which are installed in our company. So as I said before, we are assigned all the raw versions to full products. So we get more information about the product family, about the functionality, and also of the versions. So we have here also the count, how much software are installed from this title, and also the information from the latest version. But that's not all. So we can click on the other tab and we get all informations more in detail. For example, here we get the raw version. It's also important for the vulnerabilities. So we have integrated the NIST database, and with our CVE detection in our catalog, we can match automatically here the vulnerabilities to the raw version and get all informations. But also we have here more details about the architecture and the language and the parent product. So we can sort it all products, so parent product, and also the functionalities. And the most important thing, for my opinion, is that we have more information like the technical. So in this case, when you get your report of your software, you get also the information of the release dates and end of life dates. And you have also with one view the information, is this on installed software out of support or is it supported? And also information about the licensing. So if you have freeware software in your company with the same functionality as you have the same software with the same functionality and it is commercial, so you can change it on based on this report here. Perfect.
Okay, so if you want to have more details about the additional components, please feel free to reach out to us, because of course 1 hour is not enough to name every change. RayVentory 12 was for the big release where we had new components, where we shifted components, renamed components. So to get the very detailed view, please reach out to us. We will be very happy to have a dedicated call with you, or also get into a discussion. The same applies, of course, for this software catalog or RayVentory Catalog. It's a very massive tool. It doesn't look like much right now, but that's just that's just the surface, right? So there's a lot happening in the background, and if you want to have more details about this, for sure, reach out to us.
Yes, so I think we are ready with our live presentation, and yeah, we're happy to start the Q&A session with you. So if you have questions, please use the chat function. But I can see we have the first question here. So how big is the database of vulnerabilities and which for what vendors? So yeah, how big is the database? We can add all software titles in our catalog, and so I can't say what vendor. So every software what is on the market is in our software catalog and with all vulnerability informations here. Okay. So the next question is, how can I collect the inventory from different locations?
Okay, so that one goes on me then. So we saw it already where we spoke about the different custom properties, and this was the area where I mentioned more or less how to do it. So one of the approaches would be to deploy multiple scan engines so that this particular scan engine is then responsible for this network segment or branch. This would be one way, and of course another way is if you deploy portable solutions or agents rather than scan engines, which is, by the way, the preferred way. And then of course there's you can use the scan engine again to route your inventory to the main server. So also for that questions, if you want to go in discussion with it, how it could look like in your environment or how to upgrade this, please reach out to us.
Okay. Next question is, when do we will able to upgrade to this version? Yes, so you can upgrade right now. I think it's 1 week. For 1 week we have released RayVentory, and yeah, feel free to contact us. We will support you if you need support, and yeah. Okay, how does it work with the permissions?
Okay, in terms of what? In terms of scanning? If so, it depends, strongly depends on the method that you're using. So there are actually two approaches that we are following. The first one is giving the highest or close to the highest possible permission. So besides opening up the firewall to be able to get two devices, we will in Windows environments use a administrator, so local admin, or in non-Windows environments, a user that is privileged or able to run privileged commands. So sudo, for example. Another approach is what we call the least privilege approach, where we can give you the information about the dedicated commands that we are running or the dedicated services that need to be enabled so we are able to get this. So at the end, it's just a user with a little bit more.
Okay, so the next question is, do you have a daily, weekly, or monthly update of the catalog information? So I think you mean the vulnerability information, so they're based on a daily update. Okay, how to discover the gaps between the different sources?
This is basically what the whole data hub is all about. So you will generate at the end from a couple of sources, as we saw before, RayVentory together with SCCM together with Active Directory, an overall report to see where this device coming from which data source, where are gaps that we have. For example, is the device only in SCCM? Why is it only in SCCM, not in Active Directory? Same applies for RayVentory. Why is it in RayVentory? Why is it not in Active Directory? Is it Linux? Is it not? And also, you will automatically identify the gaps in terms of the coverage. So, do I have an inventory of it? Is it valid? Is it not? So everything will happen then in the Data Hub with the dashboards and reports. Some of them are already out of the box available. Other ones may be extended depending on your data sources. But as you saw, it's quite easy. It's flexible, and you have this report dashboard builder without knowledge of our database or deep knowledge of SQL. You can easily generate your reports by your own if required.
So the next question. Can you show an application of new functionality custom properties? I could not get the point why we need it.
Okay, so of course the same applies. Depends whether you would like to have it or not. This was requested by a lot of customers of ours. So this is used when you deploy multiple scan engines, for example, to add information that you cannot grab technically. So my example was just the owner. It could also be a default value like a location, a default value like the branch that where this RayVentory scan engine is installed. So these are more or less the business cases that you could use for that property. Also, if it is for a specific unit that you would like to add this information, then you can do it, of course, as well. Or you can just add empty properties to add multiple data fields that you would like to bring in the Data Hub from the scanning perspective. And also, I did not show it to you, but in the overview of the devices, everything that you defined as a property is something that you can filter for. So when you define a property, assign it to some, then you can at the end filter for something. If I would have applied a filter saying owner is Joao, then I would get all the devices where the where the owner is Joao. So actually a couple of cases where this functionality is pretty useful. And it depends, of course, on you how you would like to utilize it. It's just the opportunity and the chance to do something pretty cool, and you just have to do it.
Okay. So is it possible to import inventories from CSV or Excel files?
Generally speaking, yes. But we, of course, do not recommend it, because what is our goal with that solution is to standardize and have always the same manner of inventory. So if we speak in terms of RayVentory, it's definitely not recommended to do it. In terms of Data Hub, of course, you can always bring in data by an Excel sheet or a CSV, but it's then up to you to merge the data also and to make sure that this data is aligned.
So, okay. The next question is, we have 32 scheduled tasks and each one takes a lot of time. Our server crashed and all tasks didn't run successfully. We tried the solution of the composite tasks, but we have the same result.
Okay.
What we do in this case?
In that case, please open a support ticket.
Yeah.
And it's not the focus of this webinar, so therefore I would like to offer you to have a dedicated session where we can speak about this.
Okay. So does the zero touch method bring the same information as the agent?
The short answer is yes, it does. So the differences between the inventories is actually, there's actually no difference between the inventories. There's just the fact that an agent has more capabilities in terms of metering. So if you would like to identify whether or not applications are used, then you will have to go for the agent, because this is not feasible with zero touch yet.
The next question is, how is the catalog maintained? So the catalog is maintained from us, from RayNet's side. So we have a lot of different rule sets for this. So yeah, we can give you the highest quality of information and data here in the catalog. The next question, so Joao, you are planning to visit Turkey?
Of course I am, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah, they're still waiting
yes,
too.
really looking forward to it. Thanks for that. That makes my day.
Yes. The next question is, can I perform license management on this base?
So Data Hub is actually not designed to do license management. Initially, I said the Data Hub is completely or entirely focusing on data gathering, merging data, and be that part of solution that delivers actually the data in a normalized and transformed way. So at the end of the day, for Data Hub, the goal is to have all the data sources aligned. So for example, if you have a license management tool in place that can grab that directly from Data Hub without having the issue that was quoted before, not aligned data sources, duplicate issues, and so on, because Data Hub is the layer where you sort that already out there before bringing the data into another tool or another hardware software asset management tool. The whole idea is actually to prevent exactly these cases where you struggle with the data that's coming in. And I mean, it's always the same case, right? So rubbish in, rubbish out, and this is actually exactly what we are trying to tackle here.
Okay, so there are many questions about the licensing and license models from the new components. So those are the information we will send you after this webinar. Okay, I have no more questions yet.
Okay, then let's call it a day. Let's say thank you very much for the webinar. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the questions. It sounds like you're very interested in. So again, please feel free to reach out to us. The contact details are here. Shoot us an email, give us a call, whatever is convenient for you, and we will align the next steps.
Yes, so thank you. See you soon.
See you soon. Talk to you. Bye.